silencer, we decided to throw together another video. I'm going to do a Bravo Company 9-inch barreled 300 Blackout here today with a Midwest rail with a big inside diameter so the suppressor can tuck down inside there a couple 3 inches. So I've got a 12-inch rail and a 9-inch barrel. We want to start out today and talk about some of the tools that we're going to use for this build. I've had a couple requests for how do you do this? What do you need special to do this? So come on over here and I'll show you some of the stuff we've got right here on the table. So one of the main things for building an AR is the roll pin tools. This one holds the gas block roll pin and it holds it tight. Like you have to push it in there. You couldn't pull this out with your hand if you tried. It's going to drive it into there and hold it nice and tight. There's a variety of different sizes of these things that can be used for the bolt release. And if you have a non-integral trigger guard, there's another one that you can use to push right here. But they're just something that steadies the work so that you don't make marks on your precious aluminum receiver, especially when you're building a $1,500 SBR. So here we have the Magpul AR tool. Pretty darn sweet for all-in-one tool. Better than some of the China stuff we see out there, although it's also 80 bucks. But this guy right here grabs onto the mil-spec ones like this. It can also rotate the other side and do an external one to help that way. It's got A2 stock tools on it, castle nut tool, and a nice stout high quality metal that doesn't deform when you torque on it, like the Daniel Defense tools and the one from Voltor for their rails. You use it one time and it falls apart. Not like that. This particular one actually comes with a tool, the Midwest rail, that'll drop onto here, and a lot more are coming with something right now. The Bravo Company does, but we're going to forego the need for putting a ratchet in here, and we're just going to go straight to the Magpul that bites in way more slots and just torque that thing down perfectly. All right, so let's go ahead and get the receiver charged up. It's very important when you build an AR-15. You need to make sure that you support the right thing. The metal has to be supported. So when this barrel drops in here, and then you're going to be torquing on the barrel nut and on the muzzle device and all this stuff, you can't have the stress on the little aluminum lugs on the receiver right here. So we come over here and we drop it on the guys, the reaction rod. And obviously that'll come off there, and that meets up with the lugs right here on the barrel. All the stress is going a ½ inch deep into the barrel right here on the barrel extension. So this is going to give us success and no chance of failure. Because if you think you're cool and all that, and you're just going to go ahead and do it, one time years ago I thought I was cool. As you can tell clearly, that was a mistake. Granted, this is a Mag Tactical receiver and they're known for this, but had I supported it properly with a reaction rod, I wouldn't have had a problem. But I was putting a 22 long rifle barrel in it. They're not compatible with this. So be careful with your torque. All right, first thing first. You want to put a little bit of lube on your barrel extension. You want this to be serviceable and come apart sometime down the road. Most of the stuff you see out there is going to have quite a bit of grease in here. Even after 10,000 rounds, when you take this thing apart, there's still going to be some stuff in here because it's a nice slip fit. Next up is our barrel nut. This is, like I said, the Midwest. A lot of people in the marketplace have switched to the new slimmer rails, but your slimmer rails can't accept an Omega or a 1.5-inch suppressor down inside the rail. And you'll see when we get this thing on there and torque down that I've got at least 3.5, 4 inches past the muzzle. The suppressor is going to hide down inside this little guy. you want to come over here and take a look at the side right in the back right here. One of these little slots has to line up with the hole in the receiver for the gas tube to come through. So I can torque this only so far by hand, and then I've either got to shim it, but once you get it torqued, you can take your gas tube and slide that in there a couple times. In theory, I'm super duper close. If I look down through here, I can see the little tab showing ever so slightly. So I'm going to apply just a little bit more force to this. That should make the difference. There we go. And you can even go a step further. You can rotate that little guy up and down if it's right down the middle of the barrel. Because as you tighten this nut, it'll swing this thing back and forth like this. Ideally, if it's straight right here, it's straight inside here, and the gas key is not going to be causing any interference or premature wear. All right, so let's go back over to the table. And let's go ahead and install the gas tube into the gas block. Remember, it does go up from the gas block. I've seen this before where they're upside down, and then this is all bent and everything starts to mess up the whole system. This goes down. One of the things that I've grown accustomed to is having a nice little small roll pin punch that I can drop in there and center that perfectly with. And then I'll just hold it with my finger right here so this won't rotate. Grab your small hammer of choice, and then I'll pull that punch out. I'll take this guy right here, dab a tiny bit of grease on the tip of it, spin it in there, and I can let go very softly, and using my first shot, boom, it'll drive that thing flush. And now, and only now, will this thing come off so that we can finish the job. So as you can see now, we've driven that flush with both sides. The roll pin is in and ready for prime time. I've already taken the liberty to degrease the threads in the gas block, but I'm going to take some of the grease that I've got right here and put a nice light coat inside of here. Bravo Company hones out their gas blocks, so you can actually see the hone marks inside there, the fine cut, so it's raw metal. If you put this thing together without any kind of lube on there, you know, it's going to fill with carbon obviously, but you're going to be prone for a little bit of rust and stuff if you ever get some moisture in there. And I'll take that same finger with the grease on it, and I'll just wipe a little bit on the barrel right here. This is the amazing Bravo Company enhanced barrel. There's no shoulder on these barrels. There's just a dimple right there. So when we slide this guy on, it'll keep going, right? It'll go right on past there and go in the wrong place, but you probably can't see down there in the camera, but there's actually a dimple, and the first set screw goes inside that. I know a lot of people that build these things and they don't do this, and they say it never comes undone. Whatever. It's too easy to put a little dab of red on these things. So I'll usually work this thing in. You see how that wiggles a little bit, like the thing's in the thing? If I go out, it'll start spinning all the way, but work it so it's dead center. And then the cool thing about these nice wrenches is pretty much you yank on as much as you want to, and it'll turn an extra quarter of a turn with the T-handle and apply the proper torque to it. And obviously that thing's set down in a 1/16 of an inch in the barrel. We're not going to have any failures due to a gas block sliding forward or anything like that with this gun. On the front one where there's no dimple, I like to give it a couple of clicks like that just to kind of seat the barrel. It makes a little bit of a ring actually in the barrel metal to provide a nice secure fixture for that. Okay, this guy is getting a dead air Sandman muzzle device. Probably one of my favorite muzzle devices in the industry. So I've already degreased the barrel threads. Make sure they are clean and pure, because we're going to apply just a little dab of rock set here. And you want to make sure that that rock set not only drips on your thigh, but gets in those threads. Rock set is preferred to red Loctite in that it is completely impervious to heat, but it's water soluble, so it can be removed should you need it to. We already spent a couple minutes playing with a couple different shims to get this thing to time out correctly. The torque on these things with rock set is a little bit different, but that's probably about 30 foot-pounds right there we've got it set on. So now that that's all done, our little rail system can slide over the top here, and we'll kind of show you what we got when we do this guy. Right here we've got our dead air Sandman suppressor. These have a top dead center, so when you go to put this thing on the gun, half index top dead center. So it clicks into place, and then you rotate this little guy, and it pulls the body of the can onto the taper mount on the brake inside there. So as you can see, we've got a pretty cool looking thing, just enough to get 3 good fingers on there to crank it on and off. You will get quite a bit of heat transfer in the forepart of the rail right here as the suppressor heats up, but you can mitigate that with an angled foregrip, some key mod, or some M-lock sockets on the side to give you rubber, and obviously a gloved hand is going to help out quite a bit as well. So now we'll go ahead and finish attaching this rail to the upper. So these guys have a little bitty socket that drops in, and that will not allow this thing to move now once you put these screws through the side of it. Some of the old Midwest ones didn't have this right here, and a lot of guys came in for fixes because they'd break these little tabs. They tighten them so much it would just crack right there. So they're a lot larger now. They're thick and meaty, and they've got this little squeeze thing in the middle, which pretty much won't allow you to break things anymore like happened in the past. So there we go. We have our beautiful upper, and actually the finish on the rail and the upper receiver looks really, really similar. One of the drawbacks to these Franken guns is that every anodized factory does things in a different way. This one right here looks like it was made to go together. So what I always do to get these things going, it's nice and dry, I take a shot of whatever spray lubricant I happen to have, mist it down inside the upper right there so it kind of coats the sides. That way when the bolt goes in, it's got something to slide on. And then I'll take my my charging handle, and on those 2 lugs we want to get a little bit of grease above that so that that slidey area where it drags on the receiver doesn't get too beat up. And you can take one little dab right here where the lockup is on the charging handle, because that'll always wear out as well. And if you carefully drop this little guy in here, and we've got a Bravo company bolt. Same thing on the slider rails. Let's put a little bit of nice thick gun grease which if you think it's really gun grease, you're kidding yourself. It's just grease. Probably the same thing you put on the axles of your cars. This is Slip 2000. Did I say that right? Yeah, Slip 2000 Extreme Weapons Grease. You can get it on Amazon in a tub or in a little squeeze tube. It's kind of cool. Bravo Company stuff comes with lube already inside. Some of these guys ship these things totally dry in there. If that's the case, I'll take my little spray and I'll just give it a little squirt on the front, a little squirt on the back behind the gas rings, so that those guys are not running dry. This is one of my Sun Devil Manufacturing made receivers under marking variants. I've already taken the time to set the little set screw in the bottom that allows it to act upon this little guy right here, and you can actually see the dot right there where the it makes contact to keep the receivers from being floppy. Nice and snug. They're generally pretty snug from the get-go. But that's basically a Bravo Company barrel and bolt Sun Devil billet / Mr. Silencer billet upper with the Midwest rail. Customer will put his optical choice on there, but now we are ready to go in a nice, compact, sweet little package for a 300 Blackout. This guy's stamp came back last week, and it's ready for prime time when he comes to pick it up tomorrow night.